What's going on, guys? My name is Christopher and welcome to It's Complicated. It is a show where I talk about and showcase mostly mechanical wristwatches, just like this one. This is the Seiko SKX007J. That's right, the one that's a little more rare and made in Japan. It is a great watch. But today we are going to be talking about a different Seiko. We're going to be talking about the Seiko H558. That's right, the Seiko also known as the Arnie. Here we go. Welcome to another episode of Cool Watches in Film. It has been a while since I've done one of these videos, so I figured it's time to get to work. Now today we are going to be discussing the Seiko H558, also known as the Arnie. This watch was made very famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger because he wore this watch in quite a few of his films. He wore this one in Commando. He wore this watch in Predator.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
He wore this watch in Running Man.
Drop dead! I don't do requests.
And many other movies. Seiko launched the H558 in 1980 and produced the watch all the way up until 1990. The Seiko H558 was considered the world's first hybrid dive watch. The H558 is a quartz watch, but it still tells time by using analog hands and combines that with an LCD screen above the 12 o'clock marker. The small LCD screen actually had a backlight on it, and for 1980, that's not bad. The H558 actually had 3 different time zone settings. It had a chronograph and it had an alarm function. And upon release in 1980, the watch was $400. The H558 Arnie was a very tough watch as well. The engineers at Seiko made sure that this watch would function all the way down to negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit and all the way up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The Seiko H558 Arnie proved this as it was taken all the way to Mount Everest and back by a few climbers in the 80s. So what about picking up a Seiko H558 nowadays? Well, that might be a little tough to do. There's not that many listed around, and when you do find them, prices are a little bit of a mixed bag. Here's one for well over $1,000. Here's another one for well under $1,000. If you are looking to find an original Seiko H558, you're going to have a much harder time finding one of the dials with the orange water and the orange resist written on it with the 150 meter in white in the middle. Much more commonly, you are going to find one that just says Divers 150 meter in that orangish red that Seiko's kind of known for. But to find an Arnie with that orange water and orange resist, that is really going to jack the price up. One of the downfalls of the Arnie that I notice being replaced often on the secondhand sales of original Arnies is the plastic shroud that surrounds the stainless steel case. Seems like that cracks or breaks rather easily, but it doesn't look like it's that hard to get them replaced if you need to. The Seiko H558 was made famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger. That is why it's nicknamed the Arnie. And this watch is a big watch too, coming in at 45 millimeters. And that definitely suits Arnold Schwarzenegger back then, because even now Arnold Schwarzenegger is a bulky dude. The Arnie is also part of the Seiko Tuna collection as well. If you are interested in finding a Seiko Arnie and you don't want to worry about buying a watch that's 40 years old or finding one that's all original or buying one and worrying about how long it's going to last, don't worry, because Seiko in March of 2020 re-released the Arnie. This Seiko is reference SNJ025, and this one is solar powered. This is part of the Seiko Prospects collection. And upon a full charge, this watch will run for 6 months. However, the SNJ025, while it is solar powered and it is made freshly in 2020, it is a little bigger than the original Arnie. This one's all the way up to 47.5 millimeter. Not that big of a deal if you're already a bulky dude and you want to rock a 45 millimeter wristwatch. I don't think 2.5 extra millimeters is really gonna bother you that much. Another cool thing about the SNJ025, not only is this a brand new watch, but this is also cheaper than the original Arnie, considering this watch is not vintage. The SNJ025 is priced at $525 US. The Arnie was obviously made famous by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but it wasn't like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Seiko had any kind of product placement deal. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself just chose to wear this watch when he filmed all of those classic films. The Seiko H558 Arnie is definitely a cool watch, and although I don't mention many quartz watches on this YouTube channel, it definitely deserved its own video. So if you guys out there want an original Seiko H558 Arnie, you're going to have to do a little digging around and you're going to have to shell out a little bit of cash. Would I get an original if I wanted one of the Arnies? Probably, considering what I did with the Seiko Willard, I would probably get an original and pay that little extra money. It is likely going to be much more collectible than the re-release. But with the re-release, the SNJ025, you're not going to have to ever worry about battery acid because that thing is solar powered. So there's definitely some pros and cons to each model. And that wraps it up for another episode of Cool Watches and Film. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Please click the like button if you liked this video. And you know what? If you didn't like the video, go ahead and click the dislike button. And I'll see you next time on another episode of It's Complicated.